got something I think that's going to blow you away, but that's for a minute. So I'm honored to be here. Look, I started building Warehouse on Wheels in 2018. We purchased a small family business in Evansville, Indiana that had 2 locations and about 4,000 trailers, 53-foot dry vans, right? 2018. As I stand before you today, we're almost 40 locations and 40,000 trailers. We've been on an extremely blessed run serving our customers. And what we do is we provide flexible industrial storage in the form of a 53-foot dry van trailer. So we're going to take a trailer when a transportation firm's finished with it, about year 10. We're going to get a fresh coat of paint, fresh set of mechanicals, fresh federal, and then we're going to rent that into the supply chains from the Fortune 100 to the startup. Wherever there's inefficiency in the supply chain, in that oh no moment I ran out of space, we're there to solve that problem. We like to say we do it with Ritz-Carlton service at the Hampton Inn price, all right? There's a bunch more Brooksisms you're going to get today, so I apologize. And the poor guys that sat through this earlier are going to hear all the same jokes. So what I'm really excited about, though, is I got my buddy here. Terry Stump has joined me. He's a longtime Toyota executive, from hereforth known as the Stumper. That's what we call him, all right? So you guys know him now as the Stumper. His other claim to fame is that he guarded Larry Bird in high school, and he only kept Bird within like 40 points over his scoring average. So he did a good job. So we'll give him credit for that. The real reason I brought Terry for show and tell is because his company, Toyota, has used our solution for the last 2 decades. And I think we can all agree that Toyota is pretty well respected in the world of operations efficiency, manufacturing approach, discipline to taking cost out. So when someone like that endorses your product with a 20-year partnership, I think it speaks volume about what we do. So at the end of the day, that's what we're about. We're a warehouse on wheels. We're going to take great care of you. We're going to service you with a local team that's going to answer the phone, that's going to get you what you need. And some people have asked me, you know, in an audience like this where I have executive level folks in the supply chain, why do we care about that? Well, I'll tell you why. It's happening in your organizations. There are people throughout your organization that are renting storage trailers because the shipment's backed up at the door and not ready to go out. The containers are arriving inconsistently and they're trying to avoid detention fees. Our solution, 1 month of our solution is equivalent to probably 1 day of your detention fees, so they're saving cost. And then our solution is 4 times less expensive than fixed warehouse space. In fact, in the last 12 months, we've saved our 7,000 customers over $100 million in additional cost when compared to traditional warehouse space. So the value prop's there. What we do for folks like you, the SVP levels of the organization, is we give you the visibility, the clarity to know that this is going on. You understand the scope and size of the spend. You've got a trusted partner who's going to bring you the data to understand how it interplays into your organization. So, enough about that stuff. I want you to hear from this guy. So Stumper, what do you got for him?
First of all, the Larry Bird story, for the record, since it's being recorded, it's a very much an honor to have had the opportunity to play against such a talented individual. If you really want to know what I think, see me at the bar later. I'll say it in this way. Bird quoted, he said, "I hate losing more than I like winning." So I'll just let you feel it, okay? But Sean makes that story. It gets bigger and bigger every year. But anyway, appreciate the opportunity. I worked at Toyota, a long career, 22 years there, from Evansville, Indiana. I worked at an assembly plant in it's Princeton, Indiana, the southwestern part of Indiana. They first started making the first full-size pickup truck for Toyota, the Tundra. That's how it was started. In 1998, the first vehicle came off the line. I started in 96. They broke ground in 95 and was in HR. So on the ground floor, the plant wasn't even built. The walls weren't up, I should say. The roof was up, but not the walls. But had the opportunity to grow with that organization. They cross-trained you, and I got moved into supply chain. And as I mentioned earlier, I came from a world of FMLA, EEOC, ADA. I knew all those acronyms, and they started talking to me about daisy chain, milk runs, and cross docks. And I thought, what are you guys talking about? And that was my exposure. My first true exposure, I don't think John even knows this, the longshoremen on the West Coast were on a lockout in 2002, and they locked them out, and it looked like Normandy Beach. They said all the ocean liners were trying to get in, or the carriers were trying to come in with their freight, and I got shipped out there, not having no clue about overseas containers, anything of that, and just helped them move the freight to the plant in Indiana. But anyway, I'd like you to all just stop for a moment, and I want to have you give this experience. You've got a supply chain specialist, either within house or one of your customers. It's a Friday night, 9 p.m. You're waiting for, that person's waiting for the weekend, right? Had a good week, successful, no issues, and he gets a phone call. And the phone call comes because it's important, because otherwise it'd be a text or an email, right, from the supervisor or whatever, and they said, we have an inventory control problem. We're getting more components in than we have space. Your warehouse is full, there's nowhere to do, so what do you do? What does that person do? Go ahead, John, you can answer now. Yeah.
They call us, and we roll the trailers and save the day.
So this was my life for 14 of my 22 years there, and my exposure was, it always seemed to happen on a Friday evening, and you're there till 2 a.m. and you're calling for trailers, or because what Toyota does, and I'll share this with you. These are my props. Okay, I have a friend, I brought him from, that I explained this to John. He said, why do you need trailers? So, this is my buddy, we all know him, right? Cookie Monster, right? So this is, at Toyota, everybody knows about just in time. So Toyota does not have a warehouse. They don't have a warehouse. It's all the trailers. It is actually, they call it, there's 7 wastes of Toyota. I won't go through all 7, but the wastes are excess inventory. That is one of the things. Lean manufacturing, just in time. Bring the parts in as they're needed. We had some trucks arrive every 20 minutes. If they didn't arrive every 20 minutes, the plant would shut down. That's how just in time they were. And so that is Toyota's warehouses, these semis that are brought in, put in the yard, brought to the docks, unloaded, packaging is put back on, reusable packaging goes back to the supplier, and that's a cycle. Just in time is fantastic in weather like this. Okay, it's fantastic. So how it works, and this is where the company that John now oversees is the parts come in, that's my cookies, that's Cookie Monsters, right? Come in, these are my grandchildren, I gotta return these. They don't know I have them either, by the way, so I'm in trouble. So this is assembly. This is the assembly plant. And Cookie Monster eats the components and puts them on a vehicle. At the plant in Indiana, they make now the Sienna, they make a Lexus, and they make the Highlander, 2 models of the Highlander. And what they do is, every 60 seconds, one of those vehicles comes off the line, which is mind-boggling to me. Every 60 seconds, somebody's buying them. Toyota, every vehicle that's made has been sold. It is either you order it, and it's being built per order, and I could track your vehicle specifically, or a dealership has said, I need one because the customer's coming in, that type of thing to order the vehicle. So Cookie Monster eats, right? Parts come in, packaging goes back out, the tray goes back out. The nice thing about this tray, these are all Velcroed on. But then it goes back out with the return packaging. When Cookie Monster stops eating, these start backing up. What are some of the reasons that would stop the supply chain? Give me some ideas. What would stop the supply chain? I already mentioned one. The weather, right. In Indiana, I wrote an article once that said hurricane in Florida does not hit the plant and stop production. And everybody's in Indiana's going, Sonny, why are you saying that? Because we had suppliers in Florida. So we had to bring the freight in early. We were proactive in that type of thing. Another one would be? Road work. Road work, yeah, something like that. It could be a supplier issue, right? You can't get there and can't get back. Nashville, a few years ago, had a flood here, right? We have suppliers in this area. We couldn't come in and get the components. That's another weather-related issue, but it's road. Supplier could have a fire, power outage. Somebody mentioned earlier, some of Toyota suppliers, not many, are unionized. They have a strike, right? That could cause an issue. So that gives you the idea. And of course, the last one I should always bring up is equipment. A robot, a stamping press, something internal that would cause a problem at the plant. So this is what causes the issue. So now we got this backup. So Toyota, they don't believe in the waste of excessive inventory. So we would still go out and pick up the freight to bring it in. And that's when we would have to bring in empty trailers. So the problem we had was manufacturing downtime, but we had to have a countermeasure, would be having trailers available. So that's how we worked that process out.
Absolutely, Stumper. Thank you for sharing, the Cookie Monster. So really, I guess the point in all of this is that oftentimes you don't think about our solution until you really need it. So building a relationship with a company like Warehouse on Wheels and proactively having that established, we're there when you need us. We're rolling trailers to your site within a matter of hours from one of our locations. 40 locations from Montreal to Monterrey, Mexico, over 40,000 trailers taking care of our customers. Another great use case is we actually help one of our plastics manufacturers optimize their raw material buys. So this particular customer makes every drinking cup for McDonald's in North America. So they know going into a year that McDonald's has a purchase order, if you will, for 10 million cups, right? So they're going to play the resin market and find the optimal input price. And in the plastics game, especially in the formed plastics game, the trick is to run as much through the plant as you can in one fell swoop without changing over the tools. So they will literally find the right price, buy the resin, and produce the entire year's worth of drinking cups. They palletize them, shrink wrap them, unprinted, and put them on our trailers. They roll them 300 yards in the parking lot, and they sit. McDonald's calls and says, okay, Q1, we want this celebrity on the cup, and we need 2 million of them. They back the trailer up, they run it through the printing operation, palletize, wrap, put it back on our trailer, and park it 300 yards from the facility. The McDonald's 3PL shows up, they cross-dock it from our trailer to the McDonald's 3PL. They've been doing that for over 25 years. Again, point being, if there was a better mousetrap, Toyota darn sure would have figured it out, and so would have these guys. We're 4 times less expensive than fixed warehouse space. We're a 30-day rental agreement. You're in and out of these things at your demand and what you need. So the struggle of doing planning for 2026 and trying to figure out, should we build a warehouse, should we lease new space for next year, quite honestly, by the time you get there for the move-in in June, you may not need that warehouse space. And so having a partner like us that brings those sorts of flexible solutions, I think is optimal for a group like this. And so that's why we're honored to be here today. This is our first time here. I've just enjoyed the heck out of meeting everybody and getting to know folks. And so that's what Warehouse on Wheels is all about.
And let me dovetail on that, John, about the warehouse. And Toyota is very good about analyzing and investigating the root cause of a problem first and then alternatives. And so warehouse, when he mentions warehouse, why wouldn't Toyota build a warehouse for that contingency? Well, again, I mentioned already, that's waste. If you have space, don't you fill it at your own home? If you have an empty room, the kids move out, go off to college or whatever, you fill it. Your garage will get filled. I mean, hopefully, unless you are very disciplined, the system called 5S that Toyota says, a place for everything, everything in its place, and toss it. Most people don't. They fill it up. So warehouse will get filled. But when we would look at the cost factor on it, one, getting a warehouse is proper size, not more than what you need. And when I would try and rent a warehouse for a short duration, say 2 months, because of an issue, and as John said, when there's a model change, there's old parts, you got to take those off, bring the new parts in. So the new parts come in, and you lay those out, and you got to say, okay, what's coming in, and making sure and take the old ones off. To have a warehouse, to rent one, I just needed it for 6 months once, and they said a year lease, and they finally got down to 9 months. That was the best I could do. So I paid 3 months of lease rental for space that I did not need. The other thing is, once you have it, it's got to be close proximity, because remember the just in time. If it's 45 minutes away, that's adding more time to get that product to the door. Then you say, well, Terry, can't you get truckers and do those type of things? Well, go find me a bunch of drivers and a bunch of equipment that's available that will run 2 shifts 5 days a week on the spur of the moment. These things don't happen in advance. These happen on a Friday night at 9 p.m. Again, going back to that analogy. And then not only that, you got to have the staff to support it, because Toyota didn't have extra employees. So you go out to a temporary agency. We would go out and look at fork trucks, propane, safety equipment, all that stuff. It just wasn't practical. So the trailer was an easy fix. And I want to share one other thing, another cost savings, which was, John mentioned about the savings that the company did, but when I was there was over a $300,000 savings over the issue in 2011. Something happened in Japan in 2011 that devastated that country. Does anybody remember? The tsunami. 20,000 people died in that. If you ever get on YouTube and look at some of the film of that, it is sad, because you will see people riding their bike or running, and the wave just takes them over, and it's really dramatic. But nevertheless, during that time period, the parts weren't coming in, overseas containers. We had enough to keep running for a while, but it finally slowed down. The tier 2 and the tier 3 suppliers started affecting the plant. So we went down to a 3-day work week. So on Monday we worked, Tuesday we were off. The employees kept working. They don't lay anyone off. Toyota doesn't lay people off. But what happened was, overseas containers, I don't know if you guys have familiarity, I'm sure some of you do, there is a detention fee on there, like you have library books. You go in, okay? At Toyota, they had 42 free days. But remember, back and forth, we're down to a 3-day work week. We started hitting that detention time. $185 a day is what Toyota gets charged once you get past those free days. A trailer would rent $200 a month. So we would just take that overseas container components, put it on a storage trailer, leave it in our yard, and send the container back. So we avoided over $300,000 doing that type of simple math, simple remedy to a major problem that continued for 2 or 3 or 4 months. It went on at the plant until finally the tier 2, and we found other sources to keep up the plant going. Go ahead.
And the last business case I'll share, because I think you're kind of getting the point here, is think about the 3PL world. And as customer demand flexes and the erratic nature of what customers need and how it flows, again, that flexible storage solution, driving that to your location so that you can handle those ebbs and flows. And given the economic benefits versus fixed warehouse space, it leaves a lot of room for margin for the 3PL operators. So we're pretty popular with those guys as well. And that's really what we're about. So I brought my show and tell here, my buddy who Larry Bird walked all over, and who has been a blessing to me, although I tease him because he gives us that wonderful customer perspective, and he teaches us with Cookie Monster, so he keeps it simple, which is good for trailer guys. So any questions I can answer from the group? Yes, sir.
Tell me about, is it just the physical solution alone, or do you have any IT for being able to then see what's in my warehouse on wheels?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in fact, Toyota, bless their hearts, has been trying to come up with a yard management solution for the better part of 2 decades and was struggling with it. So we went to them with our GPS-based solution and actually created a dashboard tool so that they can actually see what's in the trailer, track the movement of that trailer. And so we create those custom solutions. We also provide parking, which is another sort of not really technical solution, but every time you think about a trailer, you got to think about where am I going to park it. And so our yards that are located in these major areas along pretty much the 8 major transportation thoroughfares, we're going to provide you the trailer and the parking as you need it. So great question. Thank you. Anybody else? I know I'm the only thing between you and the bar, so I get it.
During, did you say you started in 2018?
2018,
is that right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of growth, it seems like pretty quick. During COVID, right? Like after everything started to settle down, right? You saw that blow-up effect. Like did you guys run out of trailers to provide you people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID was an interesting time. So if you think about every 100 trailers in our 40,000 trailer fleet, pre-COVID, about 90 of every 100 are always on rent. We're about 90% utilized. In COVID, it went to 100. In fact, probably 110, because when the trailers came back from somebody else was calling for them. The phone was ringing off the hook. Now we've settled into more of a traditional 90 out of every 100. We generally keep about 4% of our fleet in reserve so we can respond immediately. But yes, those sorts of events, we saw an uptick with the tariff buy-ahead that happened earlier this year. That is part of why this is that optimal solution, because you guys can flex in and out of it. And again, I would tell you, your people on the front lines are using this solution. And they're probably doing it with a smaller provider, someone that might not have the same safety conscience, some people that might. Actually, the worst thing is probably if your logistics provider is providing trailers, because you're tying up an asset they get paid to move, so the price point you're probably being charged is well in excess of something you would incur with us. But yes, those events, I call them chaos in the supply chain, net positive to what we offer.
And you guys aren't like supplying the labor, right? Like that would be on the.
Yeah, so we're rolling a safe, dark, and dry trailer to you, ready to go to work. All right, scan the QR code. Let's get everybody in the pot here for this Yeti. I got this thing sitting in the office, all these parts and pieces that I need to get to you. And again, I'm buying the drink, so stop by and say hi, and go ahead and scan again so you get 2 entries, all right? Thank you all very much.